So at the age of 10, I wrote an article for a national newspaper for children, Soviet newspaper, about my first teacher. And I sent it. I didn't even think of an article, just wrote a story. And I sent it by, in an envelope, as it was before computers. And then it got published. And so that was the first validation that I have a voice. And I think that first win made me kind of unstoppable, and I continued writing. Still, nobody really cared about my voice at home. So, but I kept writing and publishing, and I became a journalist working for the BBC in London, and which included actually me fleeing Uzbekistan, but that's a story for another time. And then
Wow.
after BBC, I moved to Paris, and after Paris to New York, and I did other interesting things. And
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Happy spring, almost summer. I've been gardening up to my elbows in planting soil and plants. I am known for my 20 boxes of flowers that grace our deck railing, something that I've done for over 20 years. I've got some tomatoes and some veggies growing in container gardens. I'm a container gardening kind of girl. And mostly I'm just thrilled to be outside so much. We've got a new horse in the barn, and there's just a lot of excitement going on here at our house. So it's been a lot of fun. We are starting to plan our 2024 Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference being held October 24th through 26th in Golden, Colorado. You want to mark that date down on your calendar, and you want to grab your early bird tickets. I am thrilled to share that 2024 marks our 10th anniversary of Ignite. Over the past decade, Ignite has empowered hundreds of women to transform their businesses and lives with bold plans of action grounded in wisdom, clarity, and purpose. This year, we're diving deeper into unlocking time and wealth prosperity, attracting soul clients, and simplifying and scaling businesses for sustainable growth. We have just wrapped up selecting the speaker lineup, and it is so good. I can't wait to share that with you. You are going to want to be in the room this year, I promise. More to come soon, and early bird tickets are on sale. So jump out, join us for this celebration of inspiration, breakthroughs, and the incredible legacy that we've built in Ignite. And all of the details are available at camigellner.com/ignite. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a remarkable guest, Nadira Artyk, an executive leadership coach, personal branding expert, and the visionary founder of Visionary Voices, a global community dedicated to elevating women leaders, founders, and consultants. Based in Paris, France, Nadira runs the Elevate Accelerator, empowering women worldwide to find their authentic leadership voices, build strong personal brands, and advance their careers. Her background as a former BBC journalist and editor, combined with her expertise in leadership communication and storytelling, uniquely positions her to coach and train women to become vocal, visible, and influential leaders. Nadira's personal journey is equally inspiring. From growing up in a Muslim culture where women's voices were expected to be whispers to becoming a top voice on LinkedIn and a celebrated women's leadership coach. Today, she'll share her transformative story with us, discuss how she found her voice, and reveal the strategies she used to build a successful coaching business in France post-divorce as a foreigner. We will also dive into her professional insights on raising up your voice, your visibility, and influence for women CEOs and leaders around the globe. Let's meet Nadira Artyk. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio. Nadira, it's great to have you.
thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, Cami.
Yeah, you bet. And where are you joining us from today?
I'm based in Paris, France.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. And how long have you been there?
I've been here for 12 years, 12
Very-
years since I came back from New York, although I'll tell you more about me, but I'm not from New York, but I'm a citizen of the world.
Yeah, oh, I love that. A citizen of the world. That's fantastic. In fact, I've heard a bit of your story. I know that you grew up in a Muslim country and, where women's voices were very silenced. And you also became a BBC journalist. And so really putting your voice out in big ways in the world. And now you are a leadership coach. So tell us a little bit about your journey, through, that evolution of you.
Yes, as I wrote in one of the recent LinkedIn posts, I was born in a society, I was born in a world where my voice was supposed to be a whisper. Because although I was born in Soviet Uzbekistan during the Soviet Union, it was still a traditional patriarchal Muslim society where women were supposed to be, or starting from little girls were supposed to be seen, not heard, and grow up to be good wives and good moms. So and it didn't really sit well with me, because at school I was also looking up at role models like a Soviet astronaut, other women who were making difference, and it didn't sit well with me that I'm not supposed to have a voice, and I'm supposed just to follow orders and follow people and
Right.
listen. So at the age of 10, I wrote an article for a national newspaper for children, Soviet newspaper, about my first teacher. And I sent it. I didn't even think of an article, just wrote a story. And I sent it by, in an envelope, as it was before computers. And then it got published. And so that was the first validation that I have a voice. And I think that first win made me kind of unstoppable, and I continued writing. The still, nobody really cared about my voice at home. So, but I kept writing and publishing, and I became a journalist working for the BBC in London, and which included actually me fleeing Uzbekistan, but that's a story for another time. And then
Wow.
after BBC, I moved to Paris, and after Paris to New York, and I did other interesting things, and like worked in nonprofit, worked at academia at Columbia University, and then certified and became a professional coach in 2012 and came back to Paris. And since then, my mission is to empower women, and most women who come to work with me in my accelerator and other programs are women introverts. My mission is to empower women to find their voice, to own their voice, and to speak up in bolder ways, and to show up for themselves, whether they are entrepreneurs or in corporate world.
Love this. And, my mission is to raise up a million women's voices and their visibility and help them grow their businesses. So we're very aligned. And I think when I
Yes,
saw what you do and the good work that you've done in the world, it's just like you were a perfect guest to come on. So I'm thrilled to have you here today. And
thank you.
as you think about, how you found your voice, that very first letter was the start of finding your voice. But go into the voice that you have today, as far as being helping women raise up their voices. How did that passion come to you? Where did you really find that passion to say, this is where I'm going to put my focus after you really built such an incredible career as a journalist?
So actually, it's that realization. I think it came to me in the newsroom, in the BBC newsroom, as I was interviewing for each program on news and current affairs. We needed to find experts, and we had a database of experts, men and women. But for every, I would say, 6 men agreeing to be interviewed, only 4 women said yes. So it was not that the data was biased and there were more men, maybe a little bit, but not so much. It was women deselecting themselves, right, from being interviewed, from being in the spotlight. So
Right.
then I started thinking about it, that how come that women don't talk on the radio as much
Mm.
as men? Why don't they put themselves out there? So that's not fair. So that led me into work into women's rights and women's empowerment first. And I launched a nonprofit organization in New York, and I did other things. And then through that, one day I was thinking, actually, maybe women also need, I'm sure there are women who want to make change, who want to be make impact, bigger impact, or want to become entrepreneurs, because what So I've decided to study coaching and become a coach to help these women make bigger impact. And so in the beginning, I was a career coach, helping women find their purpose after they became mothers. So in their 30s, 40s. And because what we choose, a profession we choose at the age of 18, is not something we necessarily want to do when we are in our 40s. So that's how it started, me thinking, okay, I need to empower women to really live their purpose, not to play small. I've also noticed that women were also playing small, because deselecting yourself from being interviewed on the BBC, it's saying, okay, my voice doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, every woman's voice matters.
Right, right. And what is it about? I mean, so why do you think women kind of hold back and play small? I've seen that with women entrepreneurs where they hold back and play small. They've got important messages that they want to be bringing out, and yet they hesitate. So what happens there?
So I've been studying it for the last 12 years since I certified as a coach, women and what holds them back in the workplace, but also women entrepreneurs who've just launched their businesses, what stops them from growing their business, from going bigger. And I've identified such a concept as the inner glass ceiling. And so, for instance,
Yes.
perfectionism is a huge one. So we women, we hold ourselves to such impossibly high standards, and we say, if I don't, for instance, it used to be me as well. If I don't have 2 or 3 days to prepare for this interview with Kami, I'm going to say no. If my schedule is completely booked and blocked, so I can't be perfect, I can't prepare. If you came to me a day before, I would say no. Like, that was me before. But now I believe that I already have answers within me. And the more you practice public speaking, the more authentic you become. You know, I'm not trying to sound like somebody else. But for a lot
Right,
of women, perfectionism holds them back.
right.
Perfectionism, then the fear of spotlight, the fear of, fear of being judged, fear of saying something wrong, fear of, I don't know, if it's a sensitive topic about, I don't know, Gaza, or maybe they won't speak because they will be afraid of, it's risk taking. It's actually not wanting to take risks and to expose themselves. So a lot of factors, but I would say perfectionism is a big one. And then not feeling self-doubt and imposter syndrome, and saying, well, am I competent enough? Am I an expert enough? Who am I to talk? And not even seeking those public opportunities on the panels, etc.
Right.
Yeah, so there are a lot of factors. Yeah.
So what are some, as our listeners are tuning in right now, and what are some things that, if they're feeling some of those hesitations showing up, what are some things that they can do to really break through that?
So first of all, for women, it's super important to know their purpose. So to
Yeah.
be purpose driven, and that allows us uh, to understand that being in the spotlight and using our voice and seeking visibility opportunities to use our voice, it's not necessarily a selfish thing, because that's another self-judgment and being afraid to be seen as bragging, which stops women from looking for PR opportunities or other. So, and women don't wake up in the morning and say, today I want to be visible. We don't do that. We need to connect it to a bigger purpose. What this visibility will help me with. So,
Right.
for instance, if my mission is to empower women, your mission is to bring 1 million women, use their voices. And so we wake up, and that is what is driving us. That's the driving force, right? So I think if every woman was clear on her purpose, what kind of impact she wants to make, that would be helping them overcome their internal
Totally.
inhibitions and fears, right?
I so agree with that. And I can even go back to when I wrote my mission. It was like, at that point, it was really clear to me that I needed to be even more visible, because I wasn't going to do it one person by one person, right? It really needed to be like, get out there, share your message, be bold with it. And, and I did step into places that were uncomfortable because I had a bigger mission. I had a bigger purpose that was really calling to me. So I totally agree with that.
So that allows us to overlook and allow ourselves to be imperfect and just
Yeah.
move into action, even if we're scared, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's interesting. I just got off of a call with my platinum mastermind community, and it's like, we were talking about visibility, and we were talking about how it's really the fire that can ignite what, how your message gets carried, how more people receive it. That we can do a lot of the work around what it is that we stand for, kind of internally, but it's the fire of getting visible that really puts our message out in bigger ways.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with everything you've just said.
Yeah.
Yes, visibility is a tool for us to achieve our missions, to achieve our goals.
Yeah. That's a good way.
Visibility, yeah, it's not visibility for the sake of visibility.
Mm-hmm.
Visibility is a channel for us to get to where we want to go,
Yeah.
from point A to point B, whether it's a promotion, whether it's building your company, whether it's a horizontal move which allows you to live your mission and make that purpose and make that impact.
So good. I love it. And when you're helping your clients find what it is that they stand for, like really that clarity in their message, and I know you work with a lot of women CEOs. So how are you helping them bring that to life?
You mean how to find clarity about their
Clarity
purpose?
and yeah, clarity in their message, well, in their message and what it is that they're putting out there as far as their big message for the world, if you will.
Yes, there is a process through which I take them. It
Mm-hmm.
involves emotional intelligence, self-awareness, mindfulness. This is the basis. Self-leadership is the basis.
Yeah.
Through understanding their thoughts, through understanding their patterns of thought, through understanding their emotions, their core
Mm-hmm.
values, there is a step-by-step process which I take them through, which allows them to find it.
Yeah.
um,
I
and
love
it's
it.
oftentimes it's not through your head, it's through also networking and connecting to people, and
Yeah,
that
and it's
they find that clarity.
I love that it's kind of that's that inner work, that internal work that we can do that really brings that to life. So again, we're just so aligned in that. Um, what are some, once they're, really ready to help get out there and get visible, what are your ways that you like to help your clients, put their message out there from the visibility perspective? Can you give us some examples of that?
When I helped my clients
Yeah,
to
when you're helping your
so
clients to
first
get
of all,
visible.
yes, first of all, I coach them and they do the work. I
Hmm.
coach them to change their mindset, right? The
Right.
mindset is number one.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's talk about mindset, right? I mean, I think that's an important piece of this is, what's going on with the mindset that, that's such an important first step. And I totally agree with you. So build on
So,
that.
so the mindset and emotions, these are the two blocks, two barriers which stop women from showing up, that stop women from really owning the value they bring to the table, from growing, from being visible, from attracting or building the kind of business they want or the kind of career they want in both cases. And there is this mindset gap I talk often about, and that mindset gap where how we women are conditioned from our childhood. It's to be hardworking, to be
Hmm.
modest, and to expect that our hard work will speak for itself and will
Mm,
generate the rewards on its own. So this
yeah.
is the mindset a lot of women do, and they also have these complete reluctance and almost like they're very against anything which is about self-promotion, right? So they see it as bragging, they see it as selling, and they judge people who do that
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
hollow, as inauthentic, etc. So there are all these inner habits we've grown up with from our childhood, which we need to understand is the mindset, and there are ways to do it authentically when we're connected to our mission, to our purpose. So that's what I help them understand, that they have these limiting beliefs and these blocks, like I need, all these people who do that's selling, that's bragging. So
Mm,
to reframe and also find strategies which resonate with them, right? So the mindset switch, also fixed to growth mindset, when they say, some women say to me, I really suck in networking. That is such a fixed mindset, right? I'm not
Right.
good at networking, or I'm
Right.
not good on LinkedIn. I'm really not good on LinkedIn. I'm really not good at writing. So I work a lot with women in science and tech, life sciences, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them brilliant scientists with PhDs in pharmaceutical or biotech and other industries or climate change, and they're doing such amazing work. But when it comes to LinkedIn, they freeze, for instance, because they
Right.
need to express their thoughts in clear and concise ways. But first, we tackle the mindset, because perfectionism and expecting fear of judgment, all these things we need to clear. And everybody talks about imposter syndrome, but what is imposter syndrome? It's that self-critical voice, that gremlin,
Yeah.
and it's understanding and changing that voice inside. So mindset, and then we add strategies.
Yeah, I love that. And it's I'm going to go back to, because I think you hit on women, and there I've seen women that really don't want to sell, right? They have that negative connotations toward it. They grew up with those thoughts, and I've seen some of that recently, where and like you said, they judge other people who are selling, and um, as entrepreneurs, and even as business people in the corporate world, selling is part of our what we have to do. I mean, it's so judging that versus really embracing that, and looking at it through a different lens of, this is about connection and serving. So I think that's I see that as well. I'll just mirror that back. I've seen that hesitation there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I
Yes.
love that you focus on mindset, and it's like our words really do matter. If we're choosing words that, or phrases that, I can't do this, that language does start to live in our body, and what you're helping them really break through is to shift out of that.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yes. Yeah.
that's so good. So I'd love to know, so you talk to lots of women in leadership, and as you think about what conversations you're having with women in leadership today compared to the conversations you had maybe 4 years ago, like in the midst of the pandemic, and before that, like the conversations you had before the pandemic, what has shifted? What's changed for women in leadership, and what crucial conversations are you having right now with women that's different?
That's a very good question, very interesting question. So I would say probably I see a pattern where there is more courage and
Mm-hmm.
much more determination in not tolerating toxic work cultures that I
Mm-hmm.
see,
Mm-hmm.
um, and wanting to get in the driving seat of their careers and do something about it, whether it's setting up their own shop or leaving that toxic company,
Right.
So I see more determination and less tolerance for these things.
Yeah.
And I think working um, from home office also taught us that we we generate more work. We can be
Mm-hmm.
more productive when we don't have toxic office politics. I think being part of office politics to some extent is important, but there is also a lot more, the patterns which really stress us out to the point of burnout. And so women, I think, became more aware of the importance of self-care, of the importance of energy management. That's what I see, that energy management, burnout prevention, all these things became much more top of the mind for
Yep.
women leaders.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I love that some women are staying in and changing those cultures. I think that's really important. And I also love that women are going out and starting their own businesses. That's what
Yes.
makes my business go around, is the women saying, I'm leaving behind and I'm going to go start this. So I love both sides of that. But let's talk about women staying in businesses, because I think they're driving change within organizations by saying,
Yeah.
this is just, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, and we're going to do things differently. So something where they might have kept their voice silent before, now they may not be so willing to keep silent.
So yes and no, as I
Okay.
work a lot with women introverts, because a lot of women
Yeah,
in science and tech, they are introverts.
totally, totally.
They're, they got to where they are because they use so much their intelligence and their knowledge, and going into public speaking or managing conflicts is not necessarily their strengths. And so I think it's still quite an issue to have women speak up and women to be more assertive in
Mm-hmm.
meetings, and
Mm-hmm.
because there's also double bind, whether you're assertive or you're aggressive, or you get feedback to be
Right.
more assertive, but then
Right.
some women get the feedback they're aggressive. So women have to navigate all these nuances, and what I teach them is leadership style communication, is to how communicate with executive presence. Whether you're an entrepreneur and you have a team, you need executive presence. You also need leadership presence, executive
Yeah.
presence on LinkedIn to
Yeah.
get your voice heard.
Yeah.
And women in companies need that too. And it comes with emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, as I was explaining in my leadership accelerator recently, there are two types of people: those who control their emotions and shove them under the carpet, that one extreme where
Right.
they don't
Mm-hmm.
listen and suppress their emotions. And there are people whose emotions are always there. They're driving the emotions. They always express their emotions. And we need to find that middle ground where
Mm-hmm.
we listen to our emotions and let them guide us, but we control them and we soothe them so they're in a controlled way. And that is executive presence, when we're able to get that to the point where we use our emotions as our GPS, help
Mm.
help us make decision making, and to
Mm-hmm.
have that passionate kind of talk when we talk about something, right?
Mm.
Because without emotions it's like blind. So yeah, so these are the kind of things I'm very passionate about, helping women find their authentic voice where they use the power of emotional intelligence.
Oh, so good. I love that. Totally love it, and I can see why that's such so important when they're learning to come back. I've been doing a called Inner MBA. It sounds true's Inner MBA. So it's like doing our inner work. And one of the things they've talked a lot about in that course over the last 10 months has been finding ourselves in a green zone versus like a red zone of like we're frazzled, we're frenzied, like our emotions are driving everything. Or like the opposite side, the black zone is more like the we're in a space of just not feeling anymore, like you've shut everything off, right? So really finding a way in between there, so finding that middle zone again, um, and learning to be able to catch ourselves when we go off one way or another, and being able to reground back to ourselves. I think
Yes.
the work is by Dr. Jeremy Hunter, and he's done some really interesting work in that
Oh,
field.
look it up. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that green zone.
yeah, I
Yes,
did
the
too.
green zone when
Yeah, and
we
it's like
befriend our emotions.
exactly, totally, totally, and even how we like show up somatically, like how how we're holding emotions in our body. That really helps with that leadership presence as well, because when we are confident and and actually embody our message and walk in our messaging, that's where that fire comes from as well, right? Is where we can just be so we can create whole movements that way. So
Yes,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
powerful. I want to talk a little bit about your business building experiences, because you've built a very successful business, and and I know that I think you moved to France right when you were starting your business. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you were a foreigner in France, and you moved there, and um, the big journey of just starting your business and getting it to where it is today. What are a couple of business building tips that you might share with us?
So I think, well, I've built a coaching business. So I
Hmm.
don't know if most people, women who listen to you, are coaches or not,
We have a lot
but
of coaches and consultants for sure. A lot of service-based entrepreneurs.
okay. So one thing I would say is not to be afraid to take risks and to take action, imperfect action.
Oh
So that is
yes,
one thing. Imperfect action, I think, got me to more perfect. They're still not perfect, but to
right.
better action. But if
Yeah.
I just sat there, and I did that in the beginning, maybe one or first 2 years, I wanted to learn and to be perfect before I took action. And then I realized I'm wasting a lot of time. So I started taking imperfect action and experimenting before I found that my niche, before I started owning. The second thing is, again, coming back to mindset. We need to believe. If we don't believe that we will succeed, we will not. As I think it was Henry Ford who said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. So believing that you will succeed, and of course, clarity on your mission, clarity on who you want to serve, your ideal audience, clarity on what pains you're going to be solving, what challenges. And so clarity on all that, and how is it all comes together with your expertise and your strengths. All of that is important. That's the foundational work. But I think on top of that, it's taking risks, imperfect action, and believing that you can build that. I remember in the first 2 years after I came back from New York, and I was still building, and it wasn't easy. I was a foreigner in France, and my French was not as nearly as fluent as it's now. And I would go knocking on the doors of HR, and they would look at me and saying, okay, she's not French. So it wasn't going all that well. And then I would receive these notifications about very interesting jobs and roles, which kind of corresponded to my skills and background. And I was tempted. I would look at the salary and I would say, that is much easier than me trying to, build up my business like this little snowball right now. When will it become bigger? So I would be tempted to apply. And then I stopped myself and I knew that if I'm targeting two things, I'm not going to reach in either one. So I had to choose. I had to make a conscious decision to believe in my ability to grow and build a thriving, a successful business in Paris. Otherwise, I should quit. So I said to myself, either I quit and go back to the corporate world, or I believe in myself. I believe in my mission, and I keep going. And that's what happened.
I love it so much. That's a great story. That's a really great story. What was the breakthrough point for you when you felt the shift for you? Was it the belief, when you put the belief in it, that you felt the breakthrough, or what was that point?
The belief, you have to work on it every day. Every
Yeah.
day you wake up, you
Yeah.
have to remind
Yeah.
yourself and visualize and manifest all these things. The mindset work, it never stops, and revisit your goals and look
Yeah.
at next steps, etc.
Yeah.
I think the breakthrough, because also with me building my LinkedIn profile and my brand on LinkedIn, and I'm a top LinkedIn voice now. But while I was building it, I was attracting eyeballs, and some opportunities would come to me, not jobs, but to work on projects, to work for other organizations as consultants. And I would always say yes, because I was still building, I was experimenting, I was willing to try working as consultants. And I remember when the pandemic just hit and France announced the lockdown, and it was a very strict lockdown. So I had 2 months booked up with trainings I was doing for one company, which employed me from the UK, and those trainings were in France. And from one day to another, when the French government announced the lockdown, they emailed me saying, we're canceling, we will be doing them ourselves online, we don't need you. So from one day to another, the 2 months income I was counting on just vanished, just like that. And so then I was angry. I was like,
Yeah.
while there was no lockdown, there was no pandemic, they needed me because I was in France. I was English speaker, French speaker, but now it's locked down. They will do it from London. So I became, just replaceable, and they need me. But that anger and frustration helped me understand that rather than begging for a seat at somebody else's table, I would rather build my own table, my own chairs. And so that's when I started building my leadership accelerator for women in science and tech, which is now in its 4th year. And that is my program. And I marketed, it has great results. And I'm not relying on anybody for a seat, begging for the seat at anybody's table. So that actually works for me. I feel much more empowered.
Yes, I'm there's clicks to that one. That's brilliant. I love it so much. It's such good wisdom. And, and I think that's, we can all, I mean, if anybody listening, really tune into what can you build that is yours, that you own, that you're bringing the seats to the table and you're inviting people to those seats. So, really, really good advice. I love it. So, where can people learn more about you, about your programs?
So I would love to share a few free resources, if it's
Sure.
possible, under
Totally.
your episode. So
Uh-huh.
there is, for instance, a recording of my event, How to Network Efficiently, where women can learn about networking tips. And there is another masterclass I did, and it's a recording about how to build your visibility and how to build your brand. And so all these resources I'm free to I would love to share. And the biggest platform where women can follow me is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also active on Instagram, but not as much.
Yeah. And where can they get the free resources on your website?
Can I send you the link to put it under the episode?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely
I
do
mean,
that.
they are, but they all linked. So I would rather give you on my LinkedIn profile. They can find some links. So they
Okay.
come to my LinkedIn profile. They can
Fabulous. And we'll put
find
them
the
in the show
links.
notes. And I'm pretty sure we have actually the links that you sent us in
I
the
will
prep work.
send you
Yeah.
those two online 1-hour classes. They can
Okay.
watch for free.
Fabulous, fabulous. And then the final question I always close with are, what are 3 pearls of wisdom beyond all the good wisdom you've already given us? What are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
Oh, I love this one. I love this kind of advice, or like, to my younger self or to whatever. Um, so I would say the first one, stop worrying so much about others judging you,
Mm,
stop worrying so much about other people's judgment.
yeah.
Believe it or not, and I'm in my early 50s, but people don't think of you as much as you think they do. So
That's
stop
brilliant.
worrying. Yeah. So second, really, I would say start developing that self-compassionate self-talk. So many of us women, most of us, are hardwired to be so hard on ourselves, and we operate from I should, I must, I have to, which actually creates internal drama, which creates all these drama inside us, and it's us ourselves creating that internal stress. So for us to achieve our goals, for us to influence others, for us to be great leaders, for us to grow our businesses, we need to feel good. We need to feel grounded. We need to be peaceful inside. And it starts with you being kind and self-compassionate in your self-talk.
Yeah.
And yeah. And the last thing, use your voice imperfectly or perfectly, use your voice every day, whatever is your favorite platform, and don't compare yourself to anybody. Just do it in your authentic way.
Mm, so good. I love it. Nadira, it's been such a pleasure to meet you and hear your good wisdom. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, Cami.